In no time at all, Melania Trump went from being the wife of a wealthy businessman to being First Lady of the United States. That's a huge change, and with it comes some strict rules that she's now forced to follow. We'll take a peek at what goes on behind the scenes at the White House and what duties the newest First Lady now has. But first, make sure that you're subscribed for the latest from the taco and check out our community tab. Now, let's get started. Decorations. Melania Trump went from being the queen of her castle to merely being a resident in the White House. Any change she wants to make, no matter how small, now has to be approved by an entire committee. When Barack Obama was president, he had to file paperwork in order to officially request an upgraded shower head, so you can imagine just how tedious this can be. His daughter Malia Obama was forced to wait on a bedroom renovation until it was determined that removing a wall would be okay. Because the White House is a historic home, Melania needs to think carefully before making any decorating decision, no matter how small. Decorating budget. There are a lot of restrictions that must be obeyed when it comes to redecorating, in addition to gaining the proper approval. Melania has the right to redecorate the private living quarters for herself and her family, but she's given a budget to do so. Congress sets aside $100,000 for this first family renovation, which probably isn't much by Melania's high standards. However, she does have the option of swapping out her existing furniture, bedding, and rugs, or asking her husband to pay for the changes out of pocket. The Obamas ended up paying for additional renovations, so it's actually not an uncommon choice. Warehouse. When trying to stay under a certain budget while redecorating, it makes a lot of sense to utilize what you already have. Not only can Melania Trump pull items from her no doubt impressive existing collection, she has also access to a whole new cachet of goodies. A curator working for the White House manages a collection of artifacts that the First Family has access to. They're stored in a high-security facility for obvious reasons and contain many works from famous artists including Georgia O'Keeffe and Norman Rockwell. If she likes, Melania can request to have these items transferred to the White House as long as she obtains the proper permission beforehand. Left behind. Whatever changes that Melania decides to make during her stay at the White House may become part of its legacy. Since they lived there for years, all presidents end up having some impact on the White House, adding to its historical significance. The Kennedy family is who we have to thank for the swimming pool, while Truman added a bowling alley. There's also a screening room thanks to Eisenhower, and of course we know that Obama had the tennis courts redesigned to function as a basketball court. Before she decides to make any additions to the White House, Melania has to consider its impact on future presidents and their families that may end up living there. Off-limits. It seems strange that an area of your own home would be off-limits when it comes to decorating, but don't forget that the White House is a living museum of American history in addition to being the home of the First Family. There are some places that can't be touched, and there's nothing that Donald or Melania can do about it. They have more freedom over their living quarters, but the Lincoln bedroom is off-limits due to its historical significance. There are also public spaces such as the Green Room and State Dining Room that are protected from changes by an entire committee. Windows. In addition to decorating, there are many things that we take for granted which are forbidden for those who live in the White House. Opening up a window to let in a pleasant breeze on a hot day is a huge no-no when it comes to the First Family. Since Melania Trump is under constant security surveillance, that means her team needs to account for all possible situations. Introducing a potentially dangerous variable like an open window just isn't going to work. And this rule extends beyond the reach of the White House. Melania isn't even allowed to roll down her window when being transported in a vehicle. Permission. Part of having constant security means that your team needs to know where you are at all times. After all, if they can't find you, they can't protect you. So Melania won't be able to take any spur-of-the-moment trips without informing her security team and giving them time to put a protection plan in place. This even includes simple things like going out shopping or basically leaving the White House for any reason. Sure, this keeps her safe, but we can also see how it could feel suffocating. Support. When it comes to the role of First Lady, some women choose to be more hands-on than others. While many may use their position to further their own agendas, that's not a requirement. But what is required is supporting the president, and that's something that Melania does, even if she's rather quiet about it. She may not make speeches of her own, but she's there for the important moments in her husband's presidential career. There is a lot going on behind the scenes which requires a lot of time, effort, and traveling, which most people don't think about, but is all Melania's responsibility. Events. Although the White House is a place for politics, that doesn't mean that there is no joy to be found within its walls. There are many events that the president and his family is tasked with hosting, and it's expected that the First Lady shoulders these burdens. There's the annual Easter egg roll, a Hanukkah party, and of course the Christmas parties. Melania was even responsible for sending out the annual holiday card on behalf of the First family. If you thought planning holiday parties for your own family was stressful, imagine doing so as the First Lady. Children. While her husband has many more irons in the fire, the First Lady is generally expected to focus on smaller issues. For Melania, she seems to be focusing her time on improving the lives of children living in the United States. She's frequently photographed with young people, and one of her first solo outings as First Lady was to visit a New York hospital to read books to sick children. She's visited other child care centers as well and has spoken out publicly against bullying and claims that she wants children to live happier, healthier lives. Picking a cause and sticking with it is an important part of being the First Lady. Social media. Many people underestimate the role of the First Lady. Presidents have to make controversial decisions regularly, but their wives can make them appear more human and approachable to even their biggest detractors. Historically, First Ladies are more popular than their husbands, and part of that means making a good impression in the court of public opinion. While her husband Donald Trump mans his Twitter account, Melania sticks to Instagram, where she regularly posts, much to the delight of her fans. It can be tough to expose enough of your true self to appear relatable, yet not enough to appear overly informal in front of the public. It's a delicate balance, and one that Melania has had a lot of experience in traversing. Hiring. Being the First Lady is a lot of work, and it is impossible to do everything that needs to get accomplished on your own. That's why the First Lady is responsible for hiring and maintaining her own team of employees to help her out. In January 2018, Melania hired 3 new staff members to help her out and let everyone know that she's ready to get things done. She hired a director of policy, director of operations, and a communications coordinator to her East Wing team. This was the largest expansion of her team so far, and Melania expressed her enthusiasm for her new hires. Hosting. When the First family isn't traveling themselves, they're often hosting important guests. The First Lady is expected to act as a hostess on these occasions and is often tasked with entertaining the wives of foreign dignitaries. Due to an unfortunate miscommunication, the wife of Japanese Prime Minister Abe Akie was left hanging when Melania was otherwise occupied. However, over the course of the weekend, Melania recovered and hosted both the leader and his wife for the weekend, taking them to a Japanese garden and enjoying a private dinner. She also hosted a luncheon at the White House to celebrate International Women's Day, and Ivanka Trump and Education Secretary Betsy DeVos were both in attendance. Governor's Ball. Naturally, much of the president's job is political, but we do appreciate those rare moments when it isn't. The First family is supposed to represent our entire nation, so events where people can see them as humans and not just political figures are extremely important. One of these is the Governor's Ball, which was hosted by Donald and Melania Trump. It was Melania's first official White House event and included 46 of the nation's governors. The night was designed to give everyone a break from politics and focus on a pleasant evening instead of partisan interests. Libel. One important aspect of the position of First Lady is maintaining a positive reputation for your family. Sometimes that's easier said than done, and sometimes it means going to great lengths to clear your name. That's a battle that Melania was ready for when her first name was disparaged by the Daily Mail and Mail Online. She filed a libel claim against them, stating that they had made false statements regarding her time as a professional model. This lawsuit was not only notable for involving Melania, but it was one of the highest libel lawsuits to go through the British courts. Melania was triumphant and will receive damages and legal costs of about $3 million. Public eye. Libelous comments notwithstanding, part of being the First Lady is being in the public eye, and that's simply non-negotiable. It's so important that at times women who weren't married to the president have been forced to step up. Emily Donaldson, niece of Andrew Jackson, took over hosting duties while her uncle was president. Harriet Lane did the same for her uncle James Buchanan, who was unmarried. It was Eleanor Roosevelt who expanded the role beyond simple hosting duties, but having a First Lady has always been considered essential for a president. Social work. It's not an official rule, but it's expected that First Ladies will take on and champion various social issues. There is a long history of this, and initially the causes had much more variety. Eleanor Roosevelt championed for civil rights and equality, Jackie Kennedy was dedicated to preserving historical artifacts, and Lady Bird Johnson was passionate about the environment. But over the years, it seems like First Ladies have become more focused on the issues faced by women and children. Laura Bush pushed education, Hillary Clinton championed women's health and equality, and Michelle Obama Obama focused on childhood obesity. Like those before her, Melania Trump is dedicated to social issues, especially those impacting children. Salary. Former First Lady Pat Nixon once called the position of First Lady the hardest unpaid job in the world. That's because all of these duties and rules we mentioned are done pro bono by the First Lady. Because she's not an elected official, the role is considered an office of honor, meaning that it doesn't generate any income. Obviously, it comes with some perks like a security team and a house, but that hardly seems to make up for all that's expected of a First Lady. In addition to all of the public and ceremonial tasks that must be completed, Melania also has to be in the public eye 24/7 and doesn't even get a paycheck to show for it. Wardrobe. There are a lot of expenses that come with being the First Lady, and one of them is the wardrobe. We're sure that Melania Trump had a rather lavish wardrobe prior to Donald Trump becoming president, and at least that gave her a head start. When Laura Bush took on the position, she claims that she was shocked by the sheer number of designer clothes she was expected to purchase. And of course, there is no paycheck or clothing allowance that comes with the title. Being the First Lady isn't something that comes cheap, but thankfully, Melania can afford it. On special occasions, her clothes may be gifted by a designer, but that is the exception rather than the rule. Office of the First Lady. Although the First Lady doesn't draw a salary, thankfully her office does have a budget. That's how Melania affords to pay for her staff members and programs that she sets up. However, depressingly enough, it isn't much, and her employees get paid significantly less than those employed by her husband. At least she has a workspace, because ever since the Carter administration, the East Wing has been dedicated to the office of the First Lady. However, Hillary Clinton chose to work out of the West Wing, which caused a huge controversy at the time. What do you think about the position of First Lady? Let us know what you think in the comments section, and then click on the subscribe button to get access to more videos from the taco. Bye for now.